For the past decade, nuclear power was almost overlooked by everyone, but who could have guessed in the AI era, it's become the most precious resource of all. While everyone's scrambling for GPUs and building data centers, the true giants are fighting for electricity. Microsoft's betting on fusion, Google's building microreactors, and Amazon's exploring AI-powered nuclear grids. Why? Because they've realized one simple truth. Without stable electricity, there's no future for AI. From here on, the race won't just be about who has more compute power, but who controls energy, who controls the grid itself. Hi everyone, welcome to Top Trader Cairo. I'm a professional equity trader who breaks down the US market and reviews what's really happening behind the charts. If you want to catch these trends before they explode, click the link to join my circle. Let's ride the next big wave together. Before we dive in, just a quick reminder. Everything in this video reflects my own personal opinion and analysis. It's not financial advice. The market carries risks, and every investment decision should come from your own independent judgment. When people talk about nuclear power, most are still stuck in the mindset of 10 years ago. Back then, the conversation was all about carbon neutrality and energy security. Governments were pushing the agenda, policies were the main drivers, and it all felt pretty far away from us regular investors. But this time, things are completely different. This time, it's not about policy, it's about AI forcing demand to surge. The numbers make it crystal clear. AI data centers are projected to consume 325 to 580 terawatt hours of electricity by 2028, equivalent to 7 to 12% of total US power by 2030. That demand could grow more than fourfold. What does that mean? It means every single step forward in AI devours more electricity, and it can't afford to lose power ever. Unlike solar or wind, which depend on weather, AI needs continuous, stable, 24/7 power. In the US, only two energy sources can deliver that: natural gas and nuclear power. Natural gas is expensive and vulnerable to geopolitics. One supply shock and electricity prices can skyrocket. Nuclear power, on the other hand, is steady, reliable, and runs non-stop for years. That's why we're now seeing something remarkable. Microsoft investing in fusion, Google building small reactors, and Amazon experimenting with nuclear-powered AI grids. This isn't hype. It's not a marketing buzzword. These companies understand perfectly. If there's not enough power, AI simply can't run. In other words, nuclear power is no longer that old industry surviving on subsidies or policy support. It's becoming the core energy source of the AI era. Just like chips once defined the limits of computing, in the future, energy, especially nuclear energy, will define how far AI can go. And from an investment perspective, that shift is monumental. When an industry transitions from policy-driven to demand-driven, its valuation logic completely changes. That's exactly what happened with EVs. Only after subsidies faded did real growth take off. Today, nuclear power is at that same turning point. It's not being rescued, it's being reignited. Once upon a time, governments needed it to grow. Now, the market simply can't live without it. In the past, when we talked about nuclear power, it was mostly about concepts and policy narratives. But now things have changed completely. The massive energy demand from AI is reigniting the entire nuclear supply chain. So instead of chasing headlines, I'm focusing on companies that can actually deliver with real projects and real earnings first of all. The fuel backbone. Let's be clear, the lifeblood of nuclear power lies in fuel. No uranium, no reactor, and without reactors, even the most advanced technology is just sitting idle. That's why I call uranium the energy chip of the nuclear industry. It determines the upper limit of the entire ecosystem. Now, let's look at a very real problem. For decades, most of the uranium used in US nuclear plants actually came from the Russian supply network. That's a massive geopolitical vulnerability. Once relations break down, fuel supply gets cut off overnight. As energy security pressure has intensified, the US finally decided to take serious action. It's rebuilding its domestic uranium supply chain. And that move signals something huge. Nuclear independence is no longer a political slogan. It's now a commercial necessity driven by the explosive expansion of AI data centers. Because as AI's compute infrastructure keeps growing, it needs non-stop, controllable, stable power, meaning nuclear generation has to keep pace, and fuel self-sufficiency becomes the key. Let's take one concrete example, Uranium Energy Corp, or UEC. Over the past 2 years, it has become the blueprint for America's domestic nuclear fuel revival. Why? Because it nailed the hardest, most important trend, made in America substitution. In 2024, the US government passed the Nuclear Fuel Security Act, directing the Department of Energy to launch a nuclear fuel security program and increase domestic production of both low-enriched and high-enriched uranium. And that last one, high-enriched uranium, is exactly what future small modular reactors will run on. In simple terms, whoever can supply high-enriched uranium first gets first access to the AI energy boom. UAC's advantages are crystal clear. It's one of the very few companies with full mining and refining capabilities inside the US. It runs a light asset, zero debt model with very low operating costs. Most importantly, it already secured fuel supply contracts from the US Department of Energy. That means UEC isn't just a resource stock. It's part of the national energy strategy. It's like the lithium giants during the early EV boom, supported by both policy and market demand. Short term, it's driven by government orders. Medium term, it's backed by AI's hunger for clean, stable power. That combination gives it massive upside elasticity. But focusing only on mining isn't enough. Lately, I've been paying more attention to fuel efficiency. And that's where another hidden gem comes in. Lightbridge Corporation, ticker LTB. Unlike UEC, LTBR doesn't mine uranium, it upgrades it. Its main product is an advanced fuel rod that improves reactor efficiency, extends operation time, and reduces nuclear waste. To put it simply, it helps you generate more power with the same amount of uranium. Here's a simple analogy. If your electric car runs 400 kilometers on one battery pack, switching to LTBR's fuel rod is like suddenly being able to run 520 kilometers. That's the efficiency bonus purely from technology. Even better, LTBR isn't working alone. Its partners include Canada's main power utility and BWXT, both top-tier suppliers in the global nuclear ecosystem. So even though LTBR is still small in scale, its technology could eventually become a standard configuration for SMRs. To wrap up this section, the fuel segment is the purest high-leverage play within the nuclear ecosystem. Short-term, driven by policy and orders. Mid-term, driven by capacity ramp-up. Long-term, driven by technology barriers. In the context of AI-driven energy demand, it's a perfect bridge, a blend of short-term momentum and medium-term strategic positioning. Next, let's look at the equipment and service line compared with fuel. This line is a bit more stable, but it's just as valuable. Because over the next 5 years, the whole world faces the same challenge, aging reactors. According to data from the International Atomic Energy Agency, as of October 2025, there are 416 operating nuclear reactors worldwide, and about 2/3 of them have been running for more than 30 years. That's why so many countries are now launching so-called life extension programs, modernization, renovation, and digital upgrades for their aging units. In other words, over the next several years, these plants will all enter a massive replace parts, replace system cycle. And this isn't a 1 or 2 year project, it's a decade-long replacement market. Who's benefiting from it? Not the small modular reactor startups you see on the news every day, but the quiet giants that build the hardware and provide the long-term service. Take BWX Technologies, for example. I've always felt it's one of the most underrated companies in the entire nuclear space. It's essentially the military-grade supplier for us nuclear reactors, from compact reactors used in submarines to core components for civilian power plants. In short, wherever something nuclear in the US moves, you'll likely find BWXT's fingerprints on it. Even better, its customers are almost entirely government agencies and major utility operators, meaning long cycle contracts, steady profits, and very low risk. That's exactly the kind of company I love. It doesn't need hype or buzzwords. As long as reactors keep running, BWXT keeps getting paid. And now, it's also moving into AI-driven diagnostics and digitalization, adding smart monitoring modules during plant upgrades. That shift turns it from a one-time equipment vendor into a recurring service provider, a business model that's more stable and more profitable. Another one I really like is Curtiss-Wright, ticker CW. You might not have heard of it, but its reach inside the nuclear industry is huge. It builds control systems, valves, and safety monitoring software, basically the brain and nervous system of a nuclear plant. No matter how advanced a reactor is, without CW's control systems, it doesn't move an inch. And here's what's exciting. Both BWXT and CW are now doing the same thing, bringing AI into nuclear operations. In the past, engineers had to manually monitor temperature, pressure, and radiation levels on site. Now, AI models can analyze those signals in real time, predict which component might fail, and shift the whole process from reactive maintenance to predictive maintenance. That's the direction the industry is heading, the digital transformation of nuclear energy, and BWXT and CW are among the first serious players on this path. These aren't story stocks. They build profit the old-fashioned way through technology and contracts. Companies like these aren't flashy in the short term, but they're incredibly comfortable to hold long term. No wild swings, just slow, steady growth year after year. I often call them the SMCs of nuclear power. They're not the traffic magnets, but they're always the profit centers. They won't make you rich overnight, but they might be the ones you'll hold the longest. After fuel and equipment, the final line is the nuclear asset line, and the one I personally value the most is companies that directly own nuclear power assets. Because the entire structure of the power market is being reshaped by AI. In the old model, power plants sold electricity to households and factories, but AI data centers have turned electricity itself into a factor of production. Whoever can supply power cheaply and reliably becomes the gateway to the AI industry. Two companies stand out here, Vistra, ticker VSST, and Xcel Energy. Ticker Xcel Vistra is one of the largest private sector power producers in the US, owning some of the nation's biggest commercial nuclear assets. It even acquired part of Constellation's nuclear portfolio and recently announced partnerships with AI firms to launch nuclear to data center power projects. That's a big deal. It signals Vistra's transformation from a traditional utility into an AI energy supplier. And that shift doesn't just change scale, it changes the company's valuation logic altogether. Xcel Energy is even more forward-looking. It was the first US utility to publicly propose a nuclear plus AI data center model. Historically known for its stability, Xcel is now pivoting toward AI energy integration, giving it both defensive strength and growth imagination at the same time. The logic for this segment isn't storytelling, it's re-rating. Say the market realizes that high compute can't exist without stable electricity, and stable electricity can't exist without nuclear power, then companies that own nuclear assets will be repriced upward. That's why my view is simple. Fuel and equipment play the growth side, while asset owners capture the valuation. Re-rating Vistra and Xcel are the kind of stocks you prefer to keep as long-term core holdings. Steady, strategic positions beneath the short-term trades. Looking back at these three lines, the message is clear. This nuclear power rally isn't about who tells the biggest story. It's about who can actually execute and make money. Fuel decides survival, equipment decides efficiency, assets decide the ceiling. If you lock onto these three tracks, you've basically captured the hardest core of nuclear value. Most people right now are chasing the AI wave, but if you understand the energy logic underneath, you'll realize the opportunities that go the furthest are often hiding where no one's paying attention yet. So if you're also following long-term trends in AI, energy, and technology, click the link and join my circle. Inside, I share market breakdowns, the newest tracking updates, and help you cut through the noise to see clearer and move smarter. If you have any questions, drop them in the circle. I'll be there to reply personally. I'm Cairo. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.